Okay, let's talk about audio, shall we? Do you get why I wanted some more time on this video? Because this is going to be a big one, I can already tell. Like, this is definitely going to be a two-parter just on audio alone, maybe even a three-parter. But let's talk about audio and why it's so important in horror games. Or just in fact, in games in general. Audio is the most important factor in any game, I think. Every game has some form of audio in it, most times. Indie games may be completely silent, but for the most part, the vast majority of games will have audio in them. And using audio is crucial to any game. It can change the entire mood. It can make you feel scared. It can make you feel happy. It can make you feel apprehensive. It can make you feel suspicious. It can make you feel angry. It can make you cry. It can bring all these emotions up. And using audio is so significant to the game. However, if used poorly, can drag the game down. That even if it looks beautiful, even if it has amazing dialogue, even if it's a AAA game with amazing voice actors in it, if the audio is poor, it kind of bums it down. Using audio masterfully is an extreme tricky thing that, as I've said, if done wrong, can drag the game down so many levels. However, if used correctly, can elevate a game way beyond what it originally was. Even if it's a cheap cash grab, fan-made, thrown together in a week game. If they spent 1 day on the game and 6 days on the audio, if the audio is good enough, it will drag that game to the stars. I want you to think about a game you've played recently. Any at all, horror or not. What was the music like in that game? What about in that slower scene? Was there actually sound or music? You know, when like nothing really was happening, you're just kind of walking through the game. What was the music like in that scene? Was there audio? Or wasn't there? Maybe you think there was audio and you're like, yeah, I know there was, but you can't quite put your hand on what the audio was. Maybe there wasn't audio, or maybe there was and I just don't remember it. Maybe you know there's audio. There's definitely audio in that game. Like, it wasn't just silence. There was audio, right? Yeah, there must have been, right? You probably have to pause this video and go back and play that game now to check if there was audio in that scene. Was there? That's up to you to figure out. And that's what's so impressive about audio. A lot of the time, you don't even realise it's there, but it's changing the entire atmosphere of the entire game. Audio, or at least ambience, should be present throughout the entire game. And even if you want to have the game silent, you should never have the game silent. The world is never actually silent. There's the sound of your footsteps. There's the creaking of the floor, the crushing of the leaves as you step on them, the buzzing of electricity in the house, the wind blowing outside, the far-off distance of the cities, towns, whatever it may be, the planes in the sky, the cars, the sewer, the trees, the animals, everything. There is never silence in the world anymore. So the fact that if the game does use silence, it needs to use it properly right. However, when should a game use audio to make the player feel something? How can audio be used to make them elicit a response? In a moment, I'm going to play some audio tracks from certain games, and I'm almost certain you're going to be immediately, if you've played them that is, you're going to be immediately drawn into them for like, oh yeah, I remember exactly what I was feeling in this moment. Maybe I'll play them and be like, oh yeah, ah, I remember what I was feeling in this moment. Maybe I'll play them like, oh yeah, I remember this bit in the game, oh this music's awesome, yeah. Or I'll play them like, oh yeah, I remember that game. I forgot about that, but this audio reminded me of it. Yeah, oh yeah, huh. The Shin Megami Persona series has Aria of Souls, which is a reflective, somber, slower-paced song. It gives you this moment to breathe in the midst of the game. There are disappearances, you're being sucked into a new world, there are monsters, the whole world rests on your shoulders. It's maddening. You are a high schooler that's forced to save the world. It's crazy, but just in this moment, as you see in the Velvet Room, just forget about the shadows, forget about the monsters, forget about the hecticness of the TV world, just take a moment and reflect. Then there are games like Crypt of the Necrodancer which have songs like Disco to Send, which just, as it bops along, you just kind of feel yourself bouncing up and down with it. Just this cheerful beat that just kind of gets your blood going and just, yeah! It's a good goddamn song. And then you get to the shop and you find the salesman. He's like, oh, and all that. And it's just, gets you in a good mood, it gets you bopping around, you feel cheerful, it's all great, it's all, yeah! Throughout the Resident Evil series, we have the save room music, which gives you a moment to reflect, just like Persona 4. You know that there are zombies out there, you know there's infected, you know you have to save the world, you understand there is a lot of danger out there, and there are monsters that are trying to kill you. But in this moment, you know you're in a safe space, you know you can relax, you know you can breathe, that whatever happens, you are safe in this moment right now. And the game tells you that because of this music, you can relax. Fall Guys has this audio, which you just can't be mad about. Like playing the game, you keep falling off, you lose, and you lose. But you just hear this music and it's like, you know what? One more round, I gotta try again. I gotta, just so goddamn, put you in a cheery mood and just like, you feel great about stuff. Even though you're dying and losing and just, you were so close to the crown, but then you lost, you're like, oh goddamn, but the enemy's like, yeah, whatever, I wanna try again, that was fun, yeah. And then there's games like Outlast, which has the screeching of strings that emulates the squeaking of a door or the floorboards creaking as you walk. It always leaves you feeling uneasy, feeling on your toes, making sure there's no one behind you, never feeling safe to relax. The entire game is meant to put you on this feeling of uneasiness. And all this is just done by the music. Or even simpler than the entire soundtrack is simple sound cues I can play from certain games that immediately you hear and go, right, I know where that's from, I know what I need to think about right now. For instance, this sound cue. For those of you who played the game, you know exactly what this audio is. It'll be quiet. And then you've got to sneak. Gotta look out. Maybe pick up a bottle just in case. You can hear it, you're not quite sure where it is though. Or maybe it's this audio. Which tells you you're in danger. But you're not sure where from. It's all around you, just move through the water, so you gotta check every direction. Don't make any noise though, don't just go flying off in one direction in case you'll get caught. You gotta back up slow. Maybe you're a little sea pod and you gotta travel backwards. Then there's the classic of... interesting, isn't it? You're not in any danger right now. You're perfectly safe. You're probably sitting in a chair somewhere, watching this on a phone or tablet or device. There is no danger. You hear this music, suddenly feel uneasy. All these are simple sound cues that make the player feel uneasy and vulnerable. And that's what's so good about the audio. It reinforces that idea. Even though you're playing the game, you think, I'm perfectly safe. If you start hearing this audio, you suddenly feel like, okay, something's not right, I'm in trouble bad. For our example, we're using this scenario of a long corridor, because everyone knows in horror games, if you enter a long corridor, something's going to happen. If you're making a game and you have the long corridor in a horror game, do you want to use suspenseful music to let the player know that something's going to happen? Or does using that audio to inform them something's going to happen make the audio less effective in the long run? Because every time they hear that audio cue, they know something is about to happen. Then again, on the other hand, having that audio cue built up on that location means the player knows something's going to happen. They hear that audio and they're like, okay, right, something's coming. But they're not entirely sure what. So as they approach the new location, all the fear starts building up in them. They're not sure what's about to happen, but they know something's going to happen because they're used to that audio cue. They know whenever they hear that audio cue, something's going to happen. The player's imagination starts running wild. What is it going to be? Is it a new boss? Is it an enemy? Is something going to jump out at me? Is something going to smash into the window? Is something coming through the door? Is something coming through those doors? Behind me? Above me? Where is it coming from? What's going to happen? The player has no idea what's about to happen, but because they're hearing the audio cue, they know something's going to happen. And it's up to them to try and figure it out. Maybe they can predict, like, okay, right, audio's starting, I'm heading towards that door, something's going to come out that door. But then they approach the door, and guess what? It comes from behind them. Or maybe they have no idea in the long run, like, okay, right, something's going to happen, just keep playing the game, get ready for a scare, 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 and... there's the scare. Okay. Whew, moving on, that was good. Or do you just keep the audio as it was before? Do you skip the scary, suspenseful build-up music? The player walks into the room and there's the scare and they had no idea it was coming. This way they have no way of preparing for it. They don't know something scary is going to happen. They walk into the room and it's like, okay, scary thing, let's go. Ooh, good one. That was good. Okay, moving on. However, once again, this is a double-edged sword. By not having the audio change, the player has no idea something's going to come. So they have no idea when a scare is going to come. If the audio doesn't build to inform the player that something's coming to scare them, when they walk into the location, they'll just be encounter it, and they won't have any time to build the fear. By having the audio play beforehand, they have time to build up the fear. However, by not having the audio play beforehand, when they encounter it, it's unknown and suddenly it's scary. If the game doesn't use audio to build to the location, if you suddenly walk into a room and there's a chainsaw-wielding clown demon or something in the middle of the room, you walk in and they go, oh, okay, right, yes, mini-boss. Q, right, okay, let's go. Damn, I wasn't prepared for this. However, if you have the audio built beforehand, you're like, okay, right, scary audio's building, approaching the room, what's it gonna be, what's gonna be? You open the door and, it's just a mini-boss, okay. Oh, scared! Even if the actual scare is not scary, the build-up of adrenaline beforehand is enough to leave the player feeling scared. Or do you just cut out all the music altogether? As you walk down the corridor, the music slowly fades out, and the game is left with silence, where it's just the player's breathing, the player's footsteps, the sound of their tools jingling on their belt, the sound of the wind on the windows. They're just left alone, listening to their footsteps. Suddenly, with no audio, all the sounds in the background become amplified. Your footsteps, that were once soft, now as loud as gunshots. The creaking on the floor every time you walk by now sends a shiver down its spine. The squeak of the door as you open it now apparently screaming out to the rest of the house that this is your location. Every sound is now amplified because suddenly you can hear them. The music's faded out, all the background ambience is gone, and all that's left is you. If the game gives the player a gun in these sorts of games, if the audio all fades out and suddenly it's left in silence, suddenly those gunshots before, bang, 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 whatever, suddenly, bang, you're aware of the sound. Every bullet shatters the sound of the world. Silence broken for a moment. Suddenly you're aware of the gun. Suddenly you're aware you're shooting stuff. Suddenly you're not so safe. You have a gun. Why do you have a gun? There are monsters in the world. You're just alone though. Suddenly you realise you have a weapon because you're not safe. In the background audio it's like, yeah, monster, bang, 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 whatever. But when the silence falls, all that's left is the gunshots and your thoughts. Any monster approaching you can hear much further away now because the silence is there. You can hear the breathing that wasn't present before. Maybe it was. But over the audio you couldn't hear it. With the music in the background you can hear it, but suddenly you're aware of the audio of the breathing behind you. Not just one breathing though. 3, 4, 5. 5 breathings. You turn around and there's nothing there. Suddenly it's silent again. All 3 of these audio choices can have massive effects on the game and the player, without them even really noticing. Throughout the game there may be background audio that you weren't even aware of, or in fact just tuned out because it became so common. What about the audio in this video? I've been playing the same song since part 1 of this series, which you haven't even watched yet. You really should. This is part 6 of a series. But seriously, I purposely played the exact same audio this entire time. Did you even still hear it? Are you aware it's even still there? Seriously, think about it. The entire series that has the same audio. Were you aware it was even there though? Could you have picked out that audio if I hadn't mentioned it? If you was watching this video like, yeah, he's talking about horror games and all that, you're like, hey, there's audio in the background because it's just ambience. I've cut it out now because that's the whole point of this whole concept. The entire series was, there's the audio. It's gone now. What was the audio though? Can you remember what it sounded like? Don't just go back in the video, by the way. That's cheating. Seriously, there was audio in this video. There's been audio the entire video. It's been the exact same audio soundtrack the entire 5, 6 parts. Do you know what it was though? Can you remember it? If I start playing it now, you're like, oh right, yeah, that's what it was. I recognise that. The use of audio can immerse a player in the entire game. Certain sounds can just trigger effects in the human brain. And while immersed in the game, using this audio can leave the player feeling uneasy without them even realise it. Say a game has background ambience throughout the game and suddenly it just cuts out. But it's not loud ambience, it's just like gentle, quiet, soft ambience. And it just cuts out. Very slow. Goes from 4 decimals to 0. Suddenly the player feels uneasy. They're not sure why, because they tuned out the ambience at the beginning of the game, but suddenly they don't feel so safe. They're not sure what's going on. They feel uneasy. Doesn't sound that big, does it? Doesn't sound impressive, but when used correctly, elevates the game to a whole new level. If a player walks into a mansion, it's not just silent. There's the buzzing of the electricity, there's the ticking of the clock, there's the creaking of the house, the hissing of the pipe, the overall echo of the entire house, the footsteps you leave echoing from the walls and bouncing off. These are all things the human brain automatically tunes out. And yes, chances are I've just flicked the switch in your brain and you're now manually listening to the actual world and you're suddenly aware of all the little noises you couldn't hear before. The sound of your laptop or phone fan, the sound of the cars outside, the birds, the wind on the windows, the creaking, your breathing. Suddenly you're aware of it. Also, you're probably now manually breathing because you're aware you're breathing. That'll wear off in a few minutes, don't worry, but that's my point. In life, you have so many sounds around you that you just don't actually acknowledge. But then, what happens when you step out of the mansion and back into the night? Suddenly, the only sounds are the wind, the leaves blowing, the birds in the distance, and your footsteps. Suddenly, the game feels unfamiliar. All those little background noises you were used to feeling safe in the mansion, suddenly gone. Suddenly silent. Suddenly you don't feel safe. And you're not quite sure why. Inside the mansion there were zombies and monsters, but it felt comfortable. It felt safe in a way, because you were inside a building. But now you're out in the dark and all you hear is the wind. So how does silence work in games? How effective can it be? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in the next part of this series. If you are enjoying this series, obviously subscribe to be up to date with all the latest content. And if you want to support the channel, there is actually a Patreon somewhere on the link. I wouldn't recommend subscribing to it if the channel's got less than, let's say, 1,000 subscribers, because realistically it's not going to do much. I mean, if you want to support my content, I'm very much appreciated. Maybe pick the $1 or $2 tier, because any more than that, it's just not really worth it. But hey, if you want to help support the channel and help me make more content. If you want to see more from me, there's the previous 5 parts. I think 5 parts. I'm not sure how many parts this is now. You can hit those buttons to help the channel grow. You can hit subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. You can leave a comment if you want about whatever you feel like, as long as it's not offensive. Look forward to the next video coming soon. See you then. Bye.